Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. Today I have an author with me who's going to, set your mind straight and make you think about some things as you move forward in your life. His name is John McCormick, and he's written a book concerning the parables of the talents. For those of you who don't know what the parables of the talents are, it is a biblical story that is in Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30. How you doing, John?
Great.
So let me ask you, let's go back. So what is your profession in life currently?
It's hard to say because I've done a lot of things, but I've pretty much been in business for the last little more than a decade. I sold a business about 3 years ago. There was an heirloom seed business. And since then, I've kind of dabbled in a few different things. But I've just, lived off of proceeds from that and, just various other things that that none of them are making as much money as that did. But that's probably what I'd say I am. I have kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. I prefer to work for myself, and so yeah. And I guess I'm an author. So.
Yeah, you're an author too, and you're in Provo, Utah, and Utah has a unique presence of individuals. It's a growing tech state, as a matter of fact, which I found out recently. But you wrote specifically, kind of delving deep into the story of the parable of the talents. What brought that about?
Well, life, I'd say, a lot of experiences, personal experiences, and as time progressed, I've come to kind of see the world in a little bit of a different way. Which happens, right? It's like that's what happens with life. And a lot of the things that, I kind of grew up hearing, Bible stories and different things, just have kind of begun to really, I began to see things that I didn't see before. And I didn't necessarily write the book necessarily to be a religious book, per se. For anybody listening, it's if you're not religious, you might like the book. If you are religious, I think you will too. But what's said there in that story is really fascinating, and it touches everyone, no matter your religion, your race, your background. It has some underlying currents that touch us all.
Okay. And in the parable of the talents, let's go back for those who don't know. So there was a master of a household who was going on a trip, and he had 3 servants, and he gave them each a certain amount of talents, which represents money or value. And on his return, he didn't give them any expectations, really, but he gave this bounty for them to kind of be responsible for. 2 of the people multiplied, or 2 of the servants multiplied what the master gave them. 1 buried the bounty away and didn't multiply, but kept it safe. And that person who buried it was kind of rebuked and kind of beat up.
Say the least.
Yeah, to say the least, for not actually, increasing that fold that was given, even though they gave, the master gave responsibility for it, which, you kind of delve into about the lives of people. And I mean, what really kind of got you into the fold where you're like, this says so much more than just about finances. It says a lot of things about life, people, society, and living.
Well, it's interesting because you know, I've gone through some different periods of time in my life wherein I had to make choices that didn't make any sense outwardly, and and what I discovered, and why did I make those choices? Well, to be honest, at the time I didn't totally know, other than somewhat of an inner kind of knowing that it was part of my path. And I didn't totally know why, and I went ahead and I made those choices. And I was, I was surprised to discover, sometimes, I'm particularly thinking about business right now, but in some instances, it had, I was blessed monetarily. In other instances, I was not blessed monetarily. It was like, huge, massive, mistake if you look at it just on the surface. But in some of those instances, I gained so much, and so I think I began to see that things are not always what they appear. And that if you go through your life with the view of never taking a risk on that inner voice, then you can live a life where you never learn anything.
That's true. That's so very true. And when you look, for those of you who are religious in the Catholic faith, or whatever doctrine you believe in, it's not always so concise as to its meaning. And some would argue that, it's the exact word, and others would say it's an interpretation. And particularly, we have to think historically when it comes to ancient text, it has been translated from various languages. But there are universal truths that kind of hold their ground concerning human beings, particularly with finances, how to treat people, living. And this parable, because it was one that Jesus help me out here. It was one that one of Jesus's parables, correct?
Right.
And Jesus was very profound in his parables. Some of them are very straightforward, and some of them were kind of, you had to think about it and see how it applies to your circumstance to get the full meaning out of it. So why did this particular one resonate so strongly, and how you see it as applied to life?
Well, I think because of my own path, and there's a lot of things in the various parables that maybe it's things for future books that I may write, but that are really fascinating. I've always kind of grown up. Most of my life, I felt like that parable. I don't know if it's a parable, but that story. There's like 6 monks, and they're all around an elephant, and one says that it feels that, and they're all blind, right?
Yeah, I know the one.
You know the one. So, I have, for a lot of my life, I felt like the guy that was the only guy on my side of the elephant, and like I was seeing things that other people just weren't noticing. And it wasn't that mine was the only perspective, but it was that I had a perspective that other people weren't seeing. In this particular you asked why this particular parable, I think just a lot because of my own experience. And it was a good place for me to start. I started writing a couple of years ago, and I've got a lot of words written that are never published, but this was the first thing that it was like I was able to really wrap my mind around because of what I've been through. And I was able to share what I was able to see.
Okay, and with your writings, so how were you able to what was your intention of sharing those? It culminated in this writing here. So how can people access your writing?
It's on Amazon. It's called The Investment Perspective. So,
and can they get a snippet somewhere outside of Amazon, or how would they reach you particularly? So let's say someone has a question, because I'm going to tell you this. I travel a lot. I travel a great deal in airplanes and trains and automobiles.
Yeah.
And this is a great read if you have a short trip, or if you're in the liking of small books or writings such as Og Mandino and things like and things of that nature. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. What is your goal for this writing?
Well, I would say my goal is to shed greater light on the path that we are all walking. It's not that it's not the answer, but what we discover in life is that the greater light that we can receive. In other words, if we can get one more perspective, it's almost like how you have different. I'm forgetting what the word is, but you have different dimensions. You have. I'm not coming up with the right word, but the point being is that the more vantage points from which we can look at our own lives and the course that we're taking, the easier it is for us to be able to make the decisions that will be meaningful and have long-term and bring us long-term fulfillment. And so that's what the desire of this book is to shed light on a particular aspect of life. And really, the message of the book, or not of the book, but of the story that Jesus told, I try to show in the book that it has everything to do with finding meaning and fulfillment and joy in life. And it's a simple course, but if we miss it, then we can find ourselves in the position of the third servant without really completely realizing it, and we can find ourselves empty.
Gotcha. So here's what I really like that you were able to do is that you took several examples of very prominent people through current times and historical times and put them all at a dinner table and asked the question, what is the varying values for each of these, and how would you judge that? For instance, Michael Jordan, Mother Teresa, Steve Jobs, Benjamin Franklin, Gandhi, Henry David Thoreau, Emily Dickinson, King David, who wrote Psalms. And you said, if you put them all at the table, how could you judge them as a group? Because you really can't, just like you can't judge most humans, is that we are judged independently in our works that we do. Same thing, and this is kind of what I gathered out of the book, is that, we have to look at what value we bring to the world and make it the best that we can on our experiences, on our knowledge, on the fruits of our labor, and make our path that way. It particularly try to make it as good as you can. Excuse me. This morning thing. But I thought that was a great insight, to make people understand themselves, because particularly with the billionaire lifestyle, that's what it's really about, is finding your path and being that, whether it's judgmental, you're going to get judged regardless. You're going to get judged by everybody in this world who are outside of your eyeballs for some reason or another.
Yeah.
But it's up to you, for the person on the inside of those eyeballs, to see your path, to kind of look inward at your own heart, at your own being, and see what resonates with that, and how you can get to the end and say, I did good, I can go now.
Right. Well, and I'm glad that you brought up that part. That's one of my favorite parts of the book. I don't know if you're allowed to have favorite parts of your own book, but that's one of my favorites. And, you know, the fascinating thing about all of those people is the risk that they took in their lives, you know, and taking a risk on that inner voice. And given, you know, our inner voice can, you know, there's lots of voices we hear on the inside, but it's fascinating to see, you know, the reason I mentioned all of those people is because they are a cross section of humanity that shows us you know, the idea of personal growth. And what's fascinating about all of them is how different they all are. Do you mind if I read a little excerpt?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. Well, let me read this section, and maybe it'll make sense. So that I'm gonna skip around a little bit, but I'll probably read a total of about a page. So here's how that chapter opens. So, have you ever wondered what it is that causes certain people to rise to the top and shine when compared to the rest of humanity? I don't so much mean the ambitious who climb a ladder left for them by their predecessors. Those are a dime a dozen. I mean the individuals who transcend, the ones who find the answers and the paths that were previously overlooked, the Einsteins, the Mother Teresas, the Gandhis, and the like. So then skipping down a little bit, I invite the reader to imagine if you're to throw a dinner party and have all of these people in the same room. And this is what I say here. So what likely stands out most about this gathering is how different they are one from another. One is almost tempted to laugh at the thought of it. There is Michael Jordan, seated beside Mother Teresa and Steve Jobs. At another table sits Benjamin Franklin across from Gandhi, each in his native attire. Henry David Thoreau sits sporting the patched jacket that he wore during his days at Walden Pond, and makes hand signals to the man seated across from him, Ludwig van Beethoven. But from the shadows at the far end of the hall, there is a movement of someone watching the proceedings from afar. It is Emily Dickinson, who was lured out of her room by the prospect of seeing King David, the writer of the Psalms. Like trees of the forest, each of these has grown in a singular way, bending with the wind, their roots reaching downward through the earth past their own particular boulders in search of water, and their trunks twisting upward toward the light that shone past the shadows of their predecessors until they emerge a strange, great, and peculiar and magnificent thing that towers above the rest. And so the fascinating thing is that whenever we take a risk on that inner voice, what we're doing is we're beginning to answer one of our own personal questions. And that's why what we end up being able to, I'm not reading now, this is just my thoughts, but that's why whenever we can begin to trust that inner instinct, that's why we can come to a point where what we have to offer is truly unique. Does that make sense?
But that does make sense. That makes very good sense, as a matter of fact.
So, anyway, I can't remember your question, so I'm not sure if I answered.
I got so kind of engrossed in your reading that it all faded away, regardless. So, when did you start with this piece that you were writing?
I started July 24th, and I finished by September 24th of 2016. So I actually, what was funny is that I each thing that I've intended to write, when it came into my mind, I had kind of a time frame in mind that it would take me. And if I didn't get it done, something would always come along and I could never finish it. That may sound strange, but it's happened every single time.
That's life.
Yeah.
And
With this one, I had the thought it's going to take you 2 months, and I thought, okay, I got 2 months to do this. I'm going to do this, and I just sat down and I wrote it. So,
well, that's an awesome deal. So, ladies and gentlemen, the book is titled "The Investment Perspective: An Ancient Story Revisited," and when you're looking at it, I know I'm calling him John, but the author says J. A. McCormick. So that's J. A. McCormick.
yeah, just like the spices and the mayonnaise.
There you go. And you can get it on Amazon.
Correct.
And can you get
I
it from
also have a website, which is jamccormick.net. So
say it one more time because I was kind of interrupting.
Sorry, I apologize. It's jamccormick.net.
All right. So I'm going to delve into some other things that are outside the book. Are you ready? And this is for educational purposes of the audience.
Yeah.
So have you written any published works prior to this one?
No, this is my first one.
All right. Explain the process to me, because there's some things that new authors or people who are thinking about having a book need to know. For instance, an ISBN.
Right. I went ahead and bought one. You can get one from like CreateSpace, but I wanted it to be my own, and I didn't want the publisher to be CreateSpace, so I just bought my own through, I think it's what's the website?
I think I bought mine through Bawkers.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Bawkers. Yeah, that's where, and that's the place, from what I understand, that you should buy it. Like that's there are some other places that like it could end up showing that someone else is the publisher because someone else bought it and then resold it. But
yeah, because for those, what does it stand for? International Serial Barcode Number. So what that does is when you purchase that barcode number and you attach it to your works, and you register it, what happens is that way they can trace it back to you. So if there's a forgery or something, it won't have the barcode properly. Or even if it has the barcode, any royalties or any anything attached with it will go back to the author. Now, did you do any graphics for the book, or did you have any other work done? Did you have an editor? What was your process for producing the physical works?
Well, excuse me. So a couple things. First of all, I had mine. I'm not thinking of the way that it's of the right word for it, but I went to a website called Bookow, which is BOOKOW.com. I'll repeat that. That's BOOKOW.com. And I really liked the service that this place offers. Now, there might be better services. This was my first time, and so I liked it. But what this does is that it takes your Word document and it typesets it so that it looks like a real, like most books do that would come from a regular publisher, in that it spaces every letter correctly. It doesn't quite come out that way if you just upload your work directly into CreateSpace or directly into Lightning Source. And I really like the service. It was $80, and I could make as many adjustments as I wanted to that manuscript, and it made it look really professional.
It does.
Go ahead. Did you use the same, or did you use somebody else?
No, I used a place out of Florida. This was years ago. This is like 2007, 2008, right when the crash happened. So I did everything manually. I had an editor that was in Minnesota. I had a graphic artist who was in Metro Detroit, who no longer does graphic art, but she did a great job for me. I learned things about, because I produced a hardcover book. Is yours in hardcover, or is it just digital?
No, it's digital, but it's also softbound, but it's not a hardcover. I actually,
not a hardcover.
I would like to do a hardcover, but but I didn't have the money to go about doing it. So
Yeah, it's expensive, but I did like mine's it's almost like a paperback, but it's a small paperback because I really love the Og Mandino format. I'm really a fan of Og Mandino and his little books. So I produce mine that way, but there's little things you have to learn, the front cover, the back cover, and then I forgot what the thing is that's on the side that shows the sideways.
Right.
You have to, when you produce a hardcover book, there are a lot of things that you have to think about as far as ergonomics of the book. Inside covers, outside covers, streets, gutters. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Your gutter of your book. There's so many little things, because most people who are aspiring authors who have not had to go through the process just don't understand all these little things. But once you have them down, they're conscious in your brain. So if you do another project, you're doing that with you're producing the works with those things in mind.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think I answered as far as the covers go. I designed my own covers. And I used a website. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is right now, but there's a number of them out there. Looking back, if I had somebody I trusted, like through Fiverr or through one of these, places, I probably would have that done for me. I just figured it would be, I'm kind of particular that way, and so I knew I would be back and forth for a month, and I just wanted to get it done.
Yeah, I understand that totally. Understand it totally. Well, we're almost at the 30-minute mark. Actually, we're at 25 something, I think. And is there anything else you'd like for the public to understand about you, how to reach you, and are you doing any public appearances? Are you involved with your local libraries or local book clubs, local functionalities and things like that?
Yeah, so I am going to be look for me in the Provo area. I'm going to be doing an appearance at the a reading at the public library in Provo, but I haven't got a date set up. So keep an eye out on my website. I'm also probably going to be doing some readings at some bookstores. But just keep an eye out on my website for that. I don't have any dates for that yet. I will be doing other radio appearances. And if you want to contact me, I would really love to hear from you. Obviously, I would love it if you read the book, to go and do a review on Amazon. That'll help. And please contact me. If you contact me through the email link that's on my website, I would love to hear your thoughts and your feelings. And the one thing I'd really encourage you, I set it up on Amazon so that I think you can read like 45% of the book, and for free, on the little preview, because I wanted people to get into it. I specifically, kind of like you, Emmett, I specifically wanted this book to be something that people would pick up and they would kind of get caught in the first, few pages, and that it would just kind of pull them through, and that they would sit kind of like you would eat a lunch, really, that they would finish it in a sitting, like you said, on a plane flight sort of a thing. The whole idea is that I wanted to convey the message, and I specifically condensed it so that it would be consumable quickly, because I wanted people to actually read it, not just read a chapter and set it down. So anyway,
yeah, that fan just kicked on again, but for some reason,
I know, I apologize.
Yeah, your mic's doing some good stuff there though, to kind of curtail it. Well, good. Do you have a Facebook?
I don't. I don't do Facebook. I don't do any social media.
Oh, come on. You have to. That is part of the platform for promotion nowadays. Even if you just make yourself into I don't know what your beliefs are, because some people just simply don't believe it's just relevant in your life. But as far as promoting and getting messages out, it is the perfect platform.
Well, and I may, I probably will actually. My focus has been writing and talking to people. And honestly, I had a Facebook account years ago, and somehow I ended up with all these friends and that I didn't know, and I thought these aren't really my friends. I just shut it down because I wasn't using it. But anyway.
Well, now you have a purpose for it. So,
now I do. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I had the same thing. I have something like 1,000 something friends, but I've had businesses and I am a very social individual. So
yeah.
All the people, I go on, just my family alone is about 200 people,
Yeah, wow.
But that is the life we live. John, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now I always leave the audience with something. So tonight, whether you're tonight when you go to bed, several things may happen. One, you may wake up in the middle of the night and you have your family around you, and you're going to hear a sound, because I listen for this sound, and that sound is the sound of my family breathing in their sleep. That means they're safe, happy, and content. That brings me happiness. But also, when you're sleeping, someone is listening to you breathe, which means they love you and they know that you're safe, happy, and content. So remember, even when you think no one cares, there is someone who loves you. Just your perspective may be preventing you from seeing it. With that, go live the billionaire lifestyle. My name is Emmett Muckles. Now, please go to iTunes, Stitcher, come to emmettmuckles.com, leave me a comment. And with that, we're out. Have an awesome day.